Hi YouTube, how are you doing? I'm doing okay. I watched a thing on Freemasons this morning. I follow this one um, guy. Actually, what I'm interested in to see if he has any secretarial notes on the years that my dad was um, alive and being a Mason Scottish Rite Jesuit priest. I'd be interested to find if there were any writings from when what he had written within that lodge and whatever. But it is interesting that, people think things are secret and whatever. Here's an interesting note. Um, there is a ritual that the Masons do that they are resurrected. Um, Actually, that is the secret of the original Masons that were never supposed to make any lodges in the United States after France um, and the Orient. Um, those were the only lodges that had the rights, what they call the rights, different things they could do within their lodges, participating in the resurrection of the one true God. But what it really is it's the female bloodline that's passed on through the mothers that they're waiting for their resurrected Christ. And that's what the whole secret is about the whole thing for them. But I shared that information in my community if you're interested. Also, there's a thing, the Scottish Rites Freemason, and actually not the same thing no matter what they want to try and tell you. There is a 18th rite in the Scottish Rites that has to do with child predation, and that's all I can say on here. But I read it for myself in there. It was called a hall, not a temple or a lodge. It was the Scottish Rite Shriners Hall. Whole different thing. These people, just because they're affiliated, doesn't mean their beliefs are exact. But this Scottish Rite channel is showing everybody their Masonic Bible that is the King James, and within the Masons' Bible, it shows you the contributions of the Masons within the scriptures. That's a really important keynote of what I just said there, what the Masons wrote in those scriptures. Pay attention, you know, because it's a big deal what they have twisted and what they're going to stand on, whatever. I mean, they weren't even supposed to continue their lodges in the United States. The Templars were the Templars, and then there was Freemasons, there was the Rosicrucians, um, all separate orders of different things, doing different things, either with people or to them. But anyway, so you might find those two videos kind of interesting. So I did. I was watching. Just got through watching Robin's Hood live on his live stream. He was asking. He was talking about how could it be that Saul and Paul were the same person, being that they were like 1,000 years apart or whatever, because the calendars were changed from a year. I mean, a year, what they say a year is, wasn't kept, calendar wasn't made by years. It was made by turning of the shars. A shar is the movement of the moon. How long does it take the moon to traverse across the um, hemisphere in that 30-day cycle? So when they say a year is a day or a day is like a year, that is not what they're talking about. They're talking about shars that used to be actually 28 days, and then every 6 years they'd add like a day or something like that to keep their time. But what I'm telling you, before um, Hebrew scholars started making their own calendar, the years were counted in shars. So if you were 12 shars old, you'd be a year. That's why it could sound like, oh, somebody lived to be 900 years old. That's fucking ridiculous. They lived 900 shars, you know, and that's a far cry from the years, you see. So if we're talking like 70 weeks times three, that's what, 1,230 months would be like what, 7 years, something like that, approximately, isn't it? Maybe I'm wrong, but you get the drift of what I'm saying and why it's so important that these calendars and that type of thing were changed. It's a pretty big deal again. So anyway, shars, the turning of the stars, the moon. The moon indicates a lunar cycle. That's a shar, like every 30 days, 28 to 30 days. And that's why these, they say, well, these kings reigned for thousands of years. No, they didn't. It was shars. Ever since Egyptian times, their calendars and many other ancient documented shars a month, you know. So it's not a day is like a year, it's like a month is like a year. That's how that works. So, and that's why it doesn't make any sense because it's a lie. It's misinterpreted, it's misconstrued, it's twisted, and I'm telling you the truth of it. Absolutely. So I'm a little sick to my stomach. I'm feeling better now. I got my exercise done, but the first thing I did today was I baked an angel food cake. And sometimes, not just sometimes, but even when I worked in bakeries, I get sick to my stomach just from the smell of baking sugar. Not bread, but sugary things. So I'm just getting over that. I mean, it smells good at first, but then after a while, I just can't deal with it. I feel like I've ate a whole cake by myself and I haven't eaten a thing, you know. So I just got through um, having an upset stomach because of it. Actually, even I'm making strawberry shortcake for supper tonight. So I got my cake done and Doug got the trimmings from the angel food it poofed over. And I got that poofy stuff for him, you know, and he put some chocolate syrup on it. So he had angel food cake, but then he was smart. He makes these tonics with like B8 juice and all kinds of spices in there, like as a detox. So he had something really horrible, and then he had a big cup of his detox stuff, and now he's out working on that metal work that he had started yesterday. So, yeah. So we've been busy around here. Then like I say, I got well, I didn't know if I said it, but then I cut up my strawberries and put a little sugar on them and got them ready, sliced them. And so tonight's going to be frozen pizza with extra cheese on it and strawberry shortcake. Oh, yeah. We haven't had it this year for summer. It's usually like a picnic or a summertime dessert because the strawberries are in season. But these weren't from Minnesota. And our farms, they produce their berries like about May and June. So, yeah. Boy, I've been in the hot black fields of berry picking and whoa, it's some and with the like brambles, if you have like raspberries and blueberries, those things will cut you up and slice you up. Is it worth it? Yeah, I think for the blueberries it was. Where I lived there, like a quarter around, so we get all these berries, and I'd make blueberry pies. Oh, so good, excellent. Don't like it warm. Some people like bakery goods warm. Like I say, just the smell of stuff makes me sick. So warming it up would do that to it too. So yeah, I'd like if there was frozen donuts, I'd eat one frozen before I would warm it up. That's how I can't deal with it. Too much too much baking. Like when I made those butter cookies a few days ago, um Doug had some warm. I could never do that. But anyway, just I used to well like at Christmas time we'd make them really tiny, like a swirl, and then put like a Hershey's Kiss or either red or green sprinkles or colored sugar sprinkles on it or different different things. You can put a raisin or a nut in them, but I made thousands and thousands of them. I used to just bake, like start baking a couple months before Christmas time because we usually had like Christmas parties with relatives and whatever. Their relatives, relatively speaking, I was of their bloodline, but lower down on the ladder. So they supposed or pretended, you know. So whatever with them, with all them like that, with their pretense and their bullshit. So anyway, so yeah, it was a pretty productive morning. Oh, what time is it? Oh, almost 4 o'clock. 3:36. Not too bad. I started about 9:30, I think, maybe 9. Went out and fed the kitties, and then came back in and put coffee on and started baking. So yeah, I have it in the freezer now because I got a really tiny refrigerator that's pretty full of stuff. But cakes and bread products never freeze completely, so I had it cooled and now I have it double wrapped and I have it sitting in there, so I'll be able to slice it later and it be super cold to go with the berries and the Cool Whip on top. Yep, yum. Sounds good, doesn't it? I'm gonna have a big piece. you know, maybe one aside from something chocolate. When I'm eating strawberry shortcake, that's my favorite dessert. Now if I'm eating um, German chocolate cake and Rocky Road ice cream. Those two things. Oh yeah. I think I'd still pick the strawberry shortcake, but that would be a hard choice for me, you know. But I think the freshness of the berries, the lightness of the whole thing, that'd probably win out. But I would no. I'd have a piece of cake and then some strawberry shortcake. If I had a choice, I'd have them both. Not in one bowl, one at a time. After something good, like if I had fasted for a while and felt I deserved something, I'd do that. So anyway, cheers, everybody. So anyway, I hope I answered your question, Robin, on uh, the years and a shar and how it could be one or the other. You can do the math. I already did some math on my baking my cake. I had some dyslexia problems today, I think, because of the heat and the smell of the sugar. I was trying to calculate what I needed to do with my baking time, and it was not an easy task for me this morning. So I ended up um, well, this is what it looked like if you can see it. So like, so I'm not really into doing any math right now. I already tried that today, and the cake turned out okay, but I don't even think I went by a time because it didn't want to behave. I was using a silicone baking pan, um, and I think next time I do have a metal one, but you're not supposed to use metal for the baking. You could either have to mix it up. It's really delicate cake to make. You have to mix it up in a metal bowl. It has to be kind of cool, or a glass bowl. It has to be baked in either metal or glass. And but I use silicone because I have a silicone bundt pan, angel food cake pan with the hole in the middle. Um, yeah, it worked okay. It wasn't the best thing. It's a little funky. They have a tendency to really get things well done, which you do want with your angel food cake anyway, but it can't come in contact with any kind of grease, or like if I had used a pan or a spoon that had any kind of grease in it. It takes 12 egg whites. I didn't make it. I have a box cake, but 12 egg whites to make a angel food cake. No, none of the yolks. No yolk. Yeah, I used to make it by hand, but no, no, thank you. I'm not going to sit there and crack a dozen eggs. You know, I mean, I'd find a use for the yolks, or you could just make mayonnaise. But I make, I know how to make homemade mayo, and you can make a heated variety. But typically, and I don't know if people know this, but that's raw eggs in mayo. I'll buy it. And it's the same with eggnog. I've made eggnog, but I'd rather buy it. I mean, I'll drink it if somebody else makes it, not think twice about it. Might think once about it, but then if I have to make it myself, I have this weird, slimy, gulpy reaction to the raw egg thing in these things if they call for a raw egg. So, yeah, maybe you feel somewhat the same. I don't know. Did I wreck your mayo for you? I hope not. It does cure with the salt and the vinegar, but it just, mm, I'd rather not. Anyway, it's really interesting, Lady Babylon last night. Um, Finding out that Daniel was a eunuch and why people are circumcised. Did you know the unnaturalness of it all? And um, where the extra skin would more protect you of um or let me word this delicately. You have more erections if you're circumcised than you would if you had your foreskin. And that's what they're doing to people and why they're doing it, my opinion. It's not out of cleanliness, it's out of sexual control over your slaves. If they have the lack of that control, the master has more control over your sexuality and your needs. Think what you want with that. So it has more to do um, and in rituals and different things. Like it's said that they have like 4 different parts of the foreskin of Christ in different areas in the world. Weird, huh? Well, I don't know how true that is, but that's what I've heard. Who was there to circumcise Jesus? Did his dad do it? Or his mom? Or, and I mean, the way that we've seen these rabbis go down on them little boys like that after they've been circumcised. Who was doing that to that little boy? And why is Daniel a eunuch? You know, to get into heaven. These boys were being told in ancient times in order to get into heaven, they would have to do this to themselves. Sounds kind of modern, doesn't it? What would, if you wanted control over men in particular on this planet, and you were a bad entity that wanted to control God for yourself, what would you do to all the men in the world? What would you convince them would be the best way to go for cleanliness in order to gain access to heaven? Little things that are actually in the scriptures that people, they'll read over it, but they don't quite get why are we cutting these little parts off of little people or even older people, like in order to marry into certain tribes, whole town was circumcised just so that king from the bad tribe could marry the daughter of all the ones that were circumcised. I mean, stories like that, doesn't it make you wonder, you know? How weird is that? How weird is it that the God these people praise tells them it's okay to go into another person's land and murder them and take everything they own? That's loving God. I'm telling you, God doesn't roll like that. But these people that write their own books roll like that. I shared a meme about the Native Americans being the least talked about genocide and the largest genocide on the planet. There's investigations that are still ongoing about missing Native women and children. Currently, all the time they go missing, and our government doesn't do anything to help them. Why is that? Seems nobody cares. If people cared, they'd be as up in arms as I am. I always felt it was unjust that anybody could call themselves. Sure, you're a citizen, but are you really an American? Or are we all illegitimate on this land of the native people? Yeah, let's be just about it. At least be honest with yourself. And then China owns farmland. All national parks and all that land should go to the natives automatically. I mean, in the state of Minnesota, the natives are starting to like the democracy in our state because they've been giving some of the burial grounds and different lands back to the people here. Whether it's like 100 acres at a time or whatever. I wouldn't suck up to that in a million years, but I can understand why, with that being their relatives are buried there, they would want that, you know. But should be a whole lot more than that going to help them. I don't think any of the um, indigenous people in the United States should even have to have a casino to make money, and people think that they get all these benefits from the government. Benefits? No, they don't. Not like people think. It's not like that. Now, there are some very rich tribes that are millionaires. There's some that make about 8 million a year from their own investments. Nothing to do with the government. Absolutely nothing. So, yeah. And besides that, they should have all the dividends from any corporation and social security numbers that have been used, our numbers, to invest in stocks that we don't see any dividend from. We never do. Might as well go to the natives so they can build up their communities. I mean, you couldn't be any worse off, but people think they would be for some reason if they do what's right and just or speak out what's truly in their hearts. If that is in your heart at all. You know, don't get me wrong. I met some really gnarly natives. Um, I still don't blame them, but I met some super gnarly ones. You know. Anyway, so that's about all that's on my mind today. I just wanted to talk about those shars and years and what that actually is. It's a turning of the stars. It's the phases of the moon within that 30-day period, and or 28 to 31, whatever. But typically it's the 30-day cycle. And um, I heard, oh, I hate this. The sun and the moon were set in the firmament, each having their own light. It's a misnomer that the moon doesn't have its own light, that it's only a reflection of the sun. That's not true. It's a lesser light, but it has its own light to rule the nighttime and the sun for the day. So, anyway, and yeah, they are two separate things. They've never been together. There's a good male and female and a bad one. And I think that the bad ones have kept the good ones from being together for an eternity, and things are going to get righted soon. That's my thoughts on that. So, in case anybody was wondering, and no, it isn't a dual female system. It's one man, one woman, and the badge got in there, and they're pretending with their bullshit. Like say if you were the good male energy, that bad one would get in there and pretend it was you. The same with the female. And that's what they do. Period. End of story. So I can't say any more than that. If I can't convince you of that, there's nothing I can do. It's called the four winds and the four corners of the planet. So anyway. All right, everybody. Have a, or the elements, Have a really good night or day wherever you're at. Peace and love from Pine City, Minnesota, USA.